Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for turning us up and turning us on live from SEC Media Days in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame. Joining me for the first time ever from Sports Call, the host of Sports Call, Ryan Lavoy, joins me to talk a little Auburn football. Ryan, Hugh Freeze went yesterday, and he projected confidence, something we've been talking about all week. This is a different Hugh Freeze than the last couple off seasons. Obviously, his first offseason was a rush trying to catch up in recruiting. His next offseason, he talked a lot about the talent gap between Auburn and the rest of the league. This year, he's projecting that Auburn should be in the playoff talk come November. He said that in my one-on-one sit-down. He repeated it here. What do you think? I feel like this is always where Auburn should have been in year three.
Look, it's year three, and it's time to produce a little bit more. And I think that when you look back at Hugh Freeze's comments late spring, early summer, he suggested some signs of progress, but he didn't exactly exude this kind of progress that Auburn is looking for. I think when you look around the sentiments from the fan base, from us in the media, and a lot of different sources, look, real improvement's not 6 or 7 wins. It might be in terms of making a bowl game from last year, but that's not enough for year three, doing the type of recruiting that you're talking about. So I think when you are looking at Auburn's expectation, it's not necessarily this year to be in the playoff, but hey, we've got a 12-team playoff, so it's not just a few teams in October being talked about. It's 20, 25 programs that are still have their eye on the prize in the month of October. So I think that's where Hugh Freeze is going. Say this team needs to be ranked at some point. This team needs to be knocking on the door. Just because it may or may not get in the playoff does not mean that, hey, in October you shouldn't expect to still be in the conversation. Auburn needs to at least be in the conversation.
To be in that conversation, though, you've got to turn the tide, no pun intended, versus your rivals. We heard from Kalen DeBoer today. He expressed a lot of confidence in his team. He talked about how solid he feels like they are. Said that Alabama didn't see anything in the portal better at quarterback than what they had in their room. So they feel confident about the guy who's going to be, slinging it out there around for the Tide. Hugh was 4th and 31 away from the signature win Auburn needed during the Hugh Freeze tenure. He doesn't have a signature win so far on his record at Auburn. I feel like he's got to get it this year.
I think that's fair, and I think that comes with the territory of improving as a program. We all know the missed opportunities last season that Auburn had. Home games against Arkansas, Oklahoma, Cal, Vandy. I mean, these are frustrating losses. You need to be taking care of those games, but at some point it's Auburn, and you need to beat your rivals. And we all know Georgia's mocked at the top of the league once again, and that's completely fair. Alabama showed some weakness for the first time in a long time last year. Now, it's up to the rest of the league, including Auburn, to take advantage of that and see if they can really start to build. But when it comes to winning a marquee game, look, the good news for Auburn, if you want to win more games, is they don't have a lot of those opportunities because the schedule compared to others in the SEC is a little more hospitable. But I think at the same time, when you're talking about these rivalry games and these marquee wins, getting a win against Alabama, that's always going to check a box if you're an Auburn fan. And getting it inside of Jordan-Hare Stadium, you referenced the missed opportunity in 2023. There was a missed opportunity with Brian Harsin in 2021. So when you play Alabama at home, that should be a close contest, period. Those are the type of games Auburn has not won yet under Hugh Freeze. Again, it's time to start checking more boxes.
Ryan, is there a signature win outside of Alabama or Georgia? Let's talk about the schedule for a second. Lots of talk this week about that game one matchup at Baylor in Waco. Auburn can kick the season off with a really good win against what should be a really good Baylor football team. I just sat here with Josh Pate. I mean, we both think they have a chance to win the Big 12. The Big 12 is wide open. You got 2 cupcakes at home, so neither one of those will be a signature win. But you open SEC play on the road at Norman versus Oklahoma. You go to Texas A&M, who you beat in 4 OTs last year. I talked about Georgia already. But then you have Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vandy, and Mercer. And I'm not sure any of those would qualify as a signature win. Is anything here you could hang your head on if you're Hugh Freeze outside of beating Georgia and Alabama?
I think the closest thing is Oklahoma. Now, I don't know if they will succeed enough to really label it that, but when you factor in Jackson Arnold, coming from Oklahoma, all the turmoil they have last year, That was probably the chief amongst Auburn's missed opportunities. I know Oklahoma was as good or better than some of Auburn's other opponents that they lost to, but that was the most regrettable one when you talk about the 2-score lead that was blown. And then just the name Oklahoma, right? It's Auburn's first opportunity to go on the road at Oklahoma in the SEC. That's always going to mean something. You know, both coaches have a little bit of hot seat pressure. So I think that for Auburn, you're talking about the closest thing to a marquee win. Yeah, Oklahoma's probably not a top 10 or 15 team that truly qualifies themselves as a marquee win, but I think it's got those other components because of Jackson Arnold, because it's early in the season, and because of the name brand of Oklahoma.
With them picking up John Mateer, the number one player in the portal this offseason too, I feel like that might qualify that. Josh thinks that they beat Michigan and come into that game undefeated. If Auburn beats Baylor, 2 undefeated teams, Game 4 opening the SEC with each other, it could be a signature win. I agree with you. I guess I never thought of it from that perspective, but yes, that could be a signature win. If you're Auburn, this schedule represents an opportunity to really make a splash in year 3 for Hugh Freeze. A lot of people feel like, talking about 8 or 9 wins is a lot. But it's only a lot based on what they did the first 2 years. They were always supposed to be here in year 3, talking about making the playoffs, talking about all the progress they've made. It just hasn't gone well the first 2 years with 2 straight losing seasons, but you have a chance to make a jump here. Before we get out of here, I got to get a prediction from you, Ryan. What do you see for the Auburn Tigers here in 2025?
I would love to be aggressive and go towards that playoff 9-3, 10-2. 8-4 is kind of the conservative route that I'm going for this team. Look, you mentioned the progress that needs to be, that 8 or 9 wins is still not the ultimate goal. Auburn fired a coach for averaging 8 to 9 wins a year. So 8 to 9 is just simply the next stepping stone. There is another stone to step on after this. But I think that 8 to 9 win number is the number that gets people at least comfortable moving forward to a degree. There's still a lot of acquisition they'll have to make roster-wise. There's going to be a lot of retention they'll have to have roster-wise. I just think that I look at the Alabama and Georgia games, I could see Auburn beating Alabama. If they get that, I think that's 9. I do think that they're going to struggle to win the road games at Texas A&M and Oklahoma. I don't think that they're going to beat Georgia at home. And look, SEC football is always wild. Could Missouri have a shocking year? I guess, but I would be disappointed if Auburn lost at home to Missouri, quite frankly. And so I think that if they clean up that Baylor game, they still might have a couple of those early losses, but I think otherwise – look, I think they can run that table for the most part in the second half of the year. Just the Alabama game is going to determine whether it's an 8 or 9 win team.
At 8 wins, I think it's safe to say you probably beat everybody you were supposed to beat. At 7 wins, you definitely lost one you weren't supposed to.
Yes.
And at 9 wins, you got your signature win.
Right.
So at 8-4, you're maybe not predicting a signature win for Auburn.
Right I'm not married to either side. I'm fence sitting right now.
I can live with that, Ryan. I want to thank you for joining me to talk a little Auburn football today. Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. This segment is brought to you by our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORTER to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Also want to thank our friends at the Vibe Vault. If you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, visit the Vibe Vault at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. I'm growing a beard, Ryan, and they're helping me manage the process over at the Vibe Vault. You can find them next to the Marco's Pizza and right by the Renfro Supermarket. Also want to thank our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. Golden's Cast Iron, work out, grill out, chill out with Golden's Cast Iron. Last but certainly not least, I want to thank our friends at cameragraphics.net who provided all the great equipment that we're filming these interviews with this week. Great partners of the War Report. We thank them for sponsoring this segment. We'll be back at you guys with more from SEC Media Days at the College Football Hall of Fame. We're signing off, and as always, War Eagle.